first off, I have to make an announcement about the class that we will do tonight and next Wednesday for 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And then my schedule at work changed, so we will be doing Sunday afternoons from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Starting June something or other.
Do you want me to get a calendar?
We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out by the end of the class, and we'll announce it again at the end of the class. So next Wednesday night, come here, and it'll be my class, and I'll announce it again next Wednesday when it changes to Sunday. So that's the announcement I have. And let's start with the class.
You said to ask me at light.org.
And my email, if anybody has questions, they can email Vicki or me. If you have any questions, this is my email. Or Vicki, if you feel more comfortable, it's fine.
VICKI.
VICKI. Vicki at light.org. So, so this is like my first series of classes, and so, you know, we're learning as we go. So. All right, we're going to start out with the first quote. Everybody seen that? Know thyself.
What, Socrates or
Socrates or Plato or somebody, one of those ancient guys that do a lot of stuff. And I liked it because it was in the Matrix movie when Neo went to see the Oracle, and she pointed up, and that's what the placard said, know thyself. And that's what we're kind of getting to do with this esoteric psychology. We're going to find out more about the inner workings of ourselves. So, with that, people say that the best way to learn something is to teach what you want to learn to others. Because I really wanted to learn and understand this book, that's the reason why I am teaching this class. So, I read through that book once and took the test, and it was kind of like, and I knew I wanted to come back to it eventually, and that's why I decided I'm going to really learn it and teach a class on it. So I was hoping this class would be more like a discussion group, but I realized as I was going along, there's so much information that it's going to be kind of a lecture. So, but always ask questions. Do you have any questions? You know, send a question to Barb on the message board. And like I said, the first time I read through this, you know, some of this stuff might not make sense right away. Everyone is at a different place along their path of learning. And so just take what you can, leave the stuff that doesn't make sense alone or seems contrary to how you believe, and allow the rest to be absorbed into your brain for comprehension later, which usually happens later.
Thank God.
And if any of you want to take the test for this course, we're trying to get it online so you can download it at home, so you can take a test as you go along. Basically, all I'm going to say is, on that test, the first and second question are from Chapter 1, which is what we're going through tonight, so you should probably find the answers as you go. So that's how I'll do that test type of thing. And now let's start the class. First, vocabulary building. So, what does esoteric psychology mean? Do we know what that means?
I bet you do now.
Let's break it down. Okay. Esoteric, esoteric means simply inner, according to C.C. Zane. I went into the dictionary to look it up, and it says, designed for or understood by the specially initiated alone. Another definition, difficult to understand or limited to a small circle. But I think C.C. Zane got it right, because if you get it from the Greek word is esoterikos, from the eso, which means within or in. So I think CC Zane is right. Pretty sure. And psychology, which is really interesting. The word psychology comes from the word psyche plus ology. Ology is the study of something. Psyche comes from the Greek word means soul. And this is the study of.
You want to hear something interesting?
Yeah.
If you study psychology in college, or at least it used to be this way, first thing they throw out is soul.
Right now. Isn't that great? Okay, so Zane says psychology means the science of mind. And I went to the dictionary, and guess what they said? The science of mind and behavior. Pretty similar. Or the mental or behavioral characteristics of an individual or group. But it comes from the Greek word psyche, meaning soul. So, you got that part? We good? Yep. Okay, I'm going to erase this now. So, therefore, esoteric psychology embraces the inner workings of the mind or the soul. However, it's not confined to just the study of the physical mind, but includes every plane and every type of life form through which the mind or soul expresses. So it also includes exoteric psychology. Exoteric, everybody know what that means?
Outer.
Outer. From the Greek word exo, meaning outer. Eso, inner, exo, outer. Like the exoskeleton of a bug, and it's on the outer shell. So, so he says, inner processes are largely recognized by their external effects. So, does anybody have an example of that? The inner processes are recognized by their external effects. Like, Vicky right there, the look on her face was, that was an external effect. What's going on in the inner world is either she's confused or she's thinking about it. But we can recognize that by the external effects. Therefore, to study inner psychology, we also have to study the outward effects, because that's how we recognize it, being physical and all. We can also recognize nonverbal anger in somebody, even they don't even have to say anything. You can tell when somebody's mad. That's inner, external effects are recognized by the inner processes. Thus, we can better understand the relationship of inner mental factors if we also study outer mental factors, which gives us understanding of the processes of the unconscious mind. Okay. So there we are. All right. Now, in the book, Zane was talking, some contemporary of his, Thomas Hudson, wrote a book, Law of Psychic Phenomenon, back in the 30s or 40s, and he talked about two types of minds. The first was the objective mind, and the second was the subjective mind. Objective mind and the subjective mind. And this was when psychology was really getting going.
And who was this guy?
His name was Thomas Hudson, in his book Law of Psychic Phenomena. And this is when psychology really started taking off as a science. Freud, probably 30s and 40s and 50s. So they had to start having a vocabulary. So Zane also uses these two words, but the objective mind is what? The conscious mind. And the subjective would be the subconscious. which, subconscious, don't mind my spelling, which is also equal to the unconscious, according to Zane. Because Freud used the term unconscious, so Zane adopted that as well. But all three of these are all the same. There should be equal signs. And when Zane writes in his books, that's how he uses them, interchangeably. Mostly he uses subjective and unconscious. And sometimes he'll use objective, usually objective as opposed to conscious. But that's what he's meaning when you're reading the book. Okay. So, and this comes from the Latin sub, below the threshold of, not meaning less than. Behold, below the threshold of your conscious. So the conscious is what we know, everyday conscious. Okay, so then I looked up the word conscious. Is this good, Barb? As I'm going along.
Yvette, we can see that color really well, too.
Oh, good. And I'm erasing fast so it doesn't leave too much of a mark. Okay. So, conscious, the word conscious, I looked it up in the dictionary. You get the idea. I'm not spelling it right, but it means perceiving.
That is correct.
Okay. Perceiving or noticing with a degree of controlled thought or observation. Perceiving or noticing with a degree of controlled thought or observation. Another definition is personally felt or done or acting with critical awareness. So that's the conscious means. Subconscious, I looked that up in the dictionary, and it means.
Could you say that?
That's
again?
going pretty fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perceiving, observation, acting with.
Perceiving or noticing with a degree of controlled thought or observation. And another definition is done or acting with critical awareness. I should probably write as I'm going that way. You guys can write at the same time. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Subconscious, dictionary definition is existing in the mind, but not immediately available to the conscious. And I really like that definition of subconscious because it's not immediately available, but it can be available. You can bring it into your consciousness. But initially, it's in the subconscious. And then I looked up the word unconscious, which I don't like the definition of, but Zane uses these interchangeably, so you can go with that definition. And unconscious is not knowing or perceiving, not aware. Not knowing or perceiving, not aware. Which I really like that one better.
I like not knowing or unaware.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because that describes me through a lot of my life. And later on I go, oh wow, I didn't know that, but now I do.
Not aware.
Doesn't mean I don't want to be aware of it, I'm just not.
So, yeah, but then it can become conscious. But anyway,
Yeah,
C.C. Zane
right.
uses this a lot, and it's the same word. It's the same meaning for Zane. Are we good? Okay. All right. So, Therefore, the mind equals the soul equals the unconscious or subconscious. Which equals the character. And there's equal signs between all that, which kind of blows your mind. If you thought the mind was not your soul or your subconscious, but it's all the same.
Is the mind also your conscious
Yes.
awareness also?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Because it says unconscious, subconscious. But it has to be your conscious
I think
as well.
I think yeah, maybe mind includes both of them.
Yeah, it's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Because we're not all unconscious. Although some days we feel like it. And this all, oh, here it is. Here's the answer to your question. All these connect up with the physical brain, which is your central processor, to express as objective, everyday consciousness. So, all these things get processed in your brain, and connects up to express as your conscious. That's what Zane says on page 8.
In case you were wondering,
Yes.
that's where it is.
Okay, so that was some definitions and some basics that I wanted to get out of the way. And now I'm going to talk about the subheadings under Chapter 1. I'll give you the page number of the subheading, and I'll kind of talk about each subheading. So, you got this, Barb? Got it? Okay.
So is that where the cosmic plan starts on this page?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Just want to make sure I didn't miss something.
Right. Okay, a subtitle in Chapter 1 on page 8 is Man's Highest Tendencies Are Built from Low Desires. And I'm kind of going to sum up that little bit.
Could you say that again, please?
Man's highest tendencies are built from low desires. Within a person's unconscious mind, there lurks a tendency that is characteristic of the lower forms of life on Earth.
I hate to ask this, but can you repeat that sentence?
Sure.
Man's highest tendencies come from...
Are built from low desires. And if you want some extra, take me paper, I guess.
So man's highest tendencies are built from low desires. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah. See, look, Vega.
It's right there. It's a subtitle.
It's in the book, yeah.
Yeah. Within a person's unconscious mind, there lurks a tendency that is characteristic of the lower life forms on Earth, the animalistic urges, so to speak. Many of these traits have been brought together to express one's higher tendencies. Under certain conditions, the animal desires separate from the higher tendencies and become antisocial forms of behavior. Like when we see people that take their conscious out and they're just animalistic, they call that antisocial forms of behavior. The explanation is what I've talked to Vicki about, trying to understand this, was that animal desires are like the basic desires of air, food, water, shelter, reproduction, survival. Those are kind of basic urges that we have within us. low desires. In other words, we're not thinking of higher consciousness when we need air, we need water, we need food, we need shelter, right? And because universal welfare, which is the higher tendencies, actually propagates life, the species, because if we all act out of the low desires of selfishness, then our species would die, right? Because if we're just looking for our own self, this, and I don't have enough time for that baby, and I don't want the baby, and people nowadays, are killing their kids, then the species is not gonna keep going on. So those low desires, so higher tendencies are built from low desires. So the basics we need first, and then the higher tendencies come along.
Well, and you actually learn a lot from having those selfish desires too, don't you?
Yeah.
You ever think of,
You learn that you can become like an island and nobody's going to like you.
Or you learn how to satisfy those needs and you develop talents in the process of doing that, maybe.
Right. When a baby is first born, what does it need first? Air. And then what's the next thing it needs? It needs nourishment, food and water. And then the next thing it needs is shelter. It needs to be warm. Any of those things that it doesn't have, it's going to die. So if you kind of think of it that way. And then later in life, survival and reproduction. Zane recognizes that all such traits and characteristics of the unconscious mind are derived from previous experiences and conditions as other life forms, such as animal, vegetable, mineral, from the cycle of necessity. So did everybody understand what I just said? I'll just read it again. Zane recognizes that all such traits and characteristics of the unconscious mind, the so-called basic low desires, are derived from previous experiences as animal, vegetable, mineral. That's how he believes we adopted those from the cycle of necessity.
I think what he's trying to build on is this notion that there is intelligence that manifests through all life forms, and that humans have evolved through those lower life forms to acquire those degrees of intelligence.
Yes, and I'm going to actually explain this about the cycle of necessity. He taps on it a little bit in the book, but I think we all need to have like a basic understanding of it and the soul's journey. I'm going to go through that. It's because I think it's kind of important for this book to have that understanding. It's a lot in the first chapter, and I think you just need to have that basis of understanding. So I'm going to go through it basically. So Zane derives the experiences in other life forms, animal, vegetable, mineral, in the cycle of necessity. Okay, so he also talks about the cosmic plan, which equals the divine plan, which equals God's plan. So if you don't like the term God, you can use cosmic or divine, but Zane uses cosmic a lot. He also talks about divine, God. The same with divine mind, cosmic mind, mind of God. He uses those words interchangeably. So I just wanted to give you the basis. When you're reading the book, he switches around a lot, so you know what he's talking about.
And then people get confused about that.
They do.
Yeah.
I know, because, that's why I got confused. That's why I wrote it out. Where is he? Oh, okay. Okay. So you got that? Are we good? Okay. So now we go back to another definition. Ego. Okay, there's a little confusion there, but that's all right. The ego starts off as the spark of divine fire. Eternal atom of deity. The atom of deity. Pure spirit. What?
As soon as you check your connections on your mic, you said when you're moving around, it sometimes bubbles.
It buzzes?
It's not maybe you had a loose connection.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Sorry about
Too
that.
fast.
That's part of the divine fire.
I like the atom of deity.
Adam
That's
of
great.
deity. The pure spirit. It starts out as that. And we will go through this. The dictionary definition. This up. But Zane does come back to this, but it starts out initially as this. So, or the one of the three divisions: id, ego, and superego in psychology. So, we will get to how the ego becomes the individuality, which is the other definition, according to Zane.
Doesn't he talk about the ego as being that part of you that makes you unique?
Yes, I'm going to go through all that.
Oh, okay.
Believe
Sorry.
me. That's all right.
I'm sorry.
Barb, when I went through it, Barb, she was ahead of me like two steps all the time. I'm like, I'm getting to it.
You got a question?
Yeah,
Yes.
cosmic plan, divine plan, and then God's plan, and then what goes in each?
Oh, that was the divine mind, the cosmic mind, and the mind of God. Cosmic, you could put,
Divine and
yeah.
cosmic.
Yeah, they're all the same. Okay, so we have this. This becomes this, and I'll show you how. Which the individuality and the self seem very similar. All right. So before we get there, I just wanted to clarify in Zane's, in the book, the sixth dimensional world is the celestial realm. The fifth dimensional world, according to Zane, is the spiritual realm. The fourth dimension, does everybody know what that is? What realm that is? Astral. And of course, we all know what the 3D realm is. Physical. So when you're reading along in the book, I think he only mentioned sixth dimensional realm once, or the sixth dimensional realm once. But he often talks about the fifth dimensional realm, the fourth dimensional realm. This is what he's talking about. So when you're reading along, you know where he is when he's talking. All right. So now I'm going to get into colors.
Does he talk about what they are?
A little bit. I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So now I'm going to use colors, and I'm going to explain the journey of the soul and the cycle of necessity. All right, I think we're in a good place with this. All right. Zane believes that by observation of God's great plan, that the universe is not random. So he was an avid watcher of nature. And by watching nature, he saw that every life form had its proper niche. Everything was going from the simple towards the more complex. And that he believed the universe was not random, but exhibited characteristics of intelligent design, just by observing nature. This little part that I'm going to talk about right now, this is what I came from reading other stuff. It kind of ties in with Zane, but I'll get back to Zane after I just kind of talk a little bit about this. What I want to talk about. Okay, if we can imagine that God is a oneness. What?
It's a good song.
God was a oneness. It was just a oneness. That's all it was. It was just God. If there's nothing else to interact with or connect with, you can't really develop anything. You're just what you are. No matter if you're good or bad or indifferent, you can't interact with anything. You just are. This is my interpretation of the Big Bang, so bear with me. I think it's kind of interesting. So what happened was God, so the one divided within itself.
Hey,
Just
Yvette,
like, yeah,
I got something hanging down.
yeah, I know. It's okay.
Okay, it's supposed to be, okay, sorry.
Maybe that's what's causing all
They're
the
still talking
static.
about your bosom.
Maybe that's what's causing all the static. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Uh,
Do you guys think you could hear me without the microphone? Do you want me to turn it off?
Try
or just
turning
check?
it off and see if that's better. Because that mic up here is pretty good.
Oh, maybe that's what's going on, the interference.
Well, it shouldn't be, because the others use that too.
Yeah, but they're not walking around right here. Maybe
Yeah.
when I'm walking over here, there might be a buzzing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I turned the microphone off. We'll see.
Yes.
If they can still hear me because I'm like this all the time.
Yeah, everybody who heard the buzz, let us know with the microphone off if you can still hear it, or
Okay.
if it's better with or without.
Okay, so we come back to the oneness, and I think of this as the cell of when a baby is first developing, or the egg and sperm
Mitosis?
mitosis. It starts off as one cell, right?
And
then it starts dividing and multiplying and making cells. It just continually multiplies, right?
Right.
It started out as the one cell. If you can think of like God as a creativity, a oneness, it just splits itself. It's still the same cell, but it starts splitting and multiplying and dividing itself, just like cellular mitosis. And it becomes many parts, still of the one, but many parts so it can interact with itself. Think of many cells. This particle can interact with this particle.
Yeah, the interesting thing though is that before that can happen, it has to have the union of
Right.
the male,
Sperm and the
masculine,
egg.
and feminine. Yeah.
Right. Well, this is what I read. By vibration, through the Yod He Vav He, God creates waves of itself, propagating outward and interacting back on itself through the positive and negative interactions. Isn't that kind of like male and female?
Male and female positive.
Mitosis comes in. So the Yod is the positive, the He is the negative, the Vav is the positive, the He is the negative. It's like creating waves of vibrations. So think of it as like this oneness and a vibration begins. Like all around. And because it is a oneness and it is wholeness, it starts coming back around. And now it creates another wave and starts interacting and goes around, and then another wave comes, and now it's becoming more complex and interactive and all the way around. Positive and negative, and then negative and positive, etc. And by vibration of the Yod He Vav He, like think of a vibration going outward, and that starts creating the mitosis. It starts to divide and it can create. And I saw this thing, and it reminded me of this little doily. You can zoom in on this. This was one
God and everything.
This is one piece of string, long, narrow piece of string that somebody created.
Put it in front of them, yeah.
Okay. One piece of string that created this beautiful pattern from by working within it. And I thought that was very interesting how God, from the one, you can create something so beautiful and intricate.
Right. That's fascinating, yeah.
Or if you get the slinky, it starts out with nothing, so it has vibrations, and then it can interact and creates all different things. And think of all these waves going out and interacting and coming back within itself. Slinkies are good for everything, I think. So, So then the ways of itself propagating outward, interacting back on itself through the positive and negative interactions, which creates the universe, the Big Bang Theory. On it went, dividing, multiplying, creating new aspects of vibration through overtones of harmony and ripples of the interacting vibratory reflections. Thus the Yod-He, Vav-He is the propagation of everything, the creative force behind everything, the light, the life, the love, the universe. And that is came from a lot of other stuff I read, and it kind of came to me as I was preparing this class, so I thought it was very interesting. Now we'll go back to Zane's stuff and let him talk about how he kind of explains stuff. So we'll keep that. So Zane talks about the angelic realm is the 6D, the celestial realm, where the angels reside and move in harmony with the cosmic plan. Zane does talk about this, so. This is the 6D celestial realm. And in here, angels reside. I'm just going to make triangles representative of angels. And the only way I can describe is that the oneness had to multiply and divide to create the angels. That's how because I wanted to know where the angels came from. And Zane doesn't really talk about that, so that's why I had to come up with the other stuff. So Zane says, Zane says there is angels in the celestial realm. And we have no idea what this realm is. This is just a representation.
I think somewhere
description.
he says in the books that you can't really know that.
Right, we can't really know this.
We can barely know.
This is a simple story, a simple description, just to get an idea, a glimpse of a thought of what might even possibly be out there. We have no idea. Okay, so we want to go to where the ego came from. So the ego initially existed only as a potentiality, eternal spark of the infinite, an atom of deity. Zane says that Hermetic tradition holds that the undifferentiated potential spark of deity, the spirit atom, if you want to say it, was drawn to the celestial realm into the creative vortex of angelic parents who occupied the celestial realm. And by their love vibrations, they gave birth to the ego. This is called the ego's differentiation. So I draw these two triangles in the celestial realm, and they have a vibration from here, from the oneness, from the God. And that oneness vibration creates the divine spark of deity, like a teardrop. And what those vibrations are is based on the cosmic need. The cosmos is ever expanding and developing and creating, and it has needs for different cosmic work to be done. That's Zane's theory based on looking at nature. Everything in nature has a purpose, has a reason for being. It does something that helps the planet in some way. So this divine spark of deity through these angelic vibrations becomes the ego. And we're still in the celestial realm. Don't worry, this is it's gonna go quicker, believe me.
This is interesting,
Is it?
Okay.
Okay, and then it became differentiated. Zane talks about undifferentiated spark of deity. This is all potential. And then it becomes a differentiated. It comes into existence, and it becomes the ego, which becomes the individuality. So that's how the ego goes from undifferentiated to differentiated.
And undifferentiated means unconscious.
No, it means a potential. All he says is a potential.
Okay.
There's a potential in the universe to be creative, to create things. And that potential is up here in the vibrations of the God. And when it has a cosmic need for something, these angel things, because there's probably other angels in there, right?
I'm hoping.
And they have an ego.
Little baby egos wandering
Big
around.
egos, right? Little teardrops of baby
Little
egos.
cherubim. I think the way they used to picture them with the little cherubs.
Right? And Zane says,
Baby angels.
under the stress of the cosmic need for a special type of job function to be performed in the ever-expanding developing universe, the ego is given a type of vibrational quality, attractive or repulsive, that then becomes the individuality. So it's given a quality based on this vibration. And this vibration over here creates a different quality. And this, et cetera, et cetera. When the ego is given the type of vibrational quality, it at once starts attracting experiences which give the ego the beginnings of both feelings and intelligence, which is love and wisdom. So as soon as it's born, it starts having experiences. Just think of like a baby. Baby starts breathing air, has some experiences. That little ego up in celestial realm, same thing. It starts having experiences. And the experiences give it both feelings and intelligence, which Zane says are equal to love and wisdom. And it's only the beginning, obviously. It was just born, so it doesn't have much of it. But it has the beginnings of it.
Has a lot of potential.
Has a lot of Then the ego gradually builds about itself a form made from the celestial realm. We'll talk about that. As a result of the experiences, the ego began to have states of consciousness because consciousness is the result of having experiences. So, does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So the ego goes out and has experience.
Yes, but in the astral realm, it starts talking to this guy or talking to this guy, and it starts creating more and more consciousness and love and wisdom, feelings and intelligence. Yes.
It's been suggested that you just totally remove your mic affair, and maybe that would stop
Is it still buzzing?
intermittently.
Really? Okay. Well, can somebody pull the battery out?
Sure.
Part comes out. I think it keeps switching on, that's why. I need a drink.
I like your little world you're creating.
Where am I? Okay. Okay. All right. So then it has all the experiences it can have in the celestial realm. It can only have so many experiences, and now it needs to continue to gain more and more feelings and intelligence, love and wisdom. It needs to have more experiences. So the only way it can do that is it has to move now into the spiritual realm. This is why I need colors. And we'll call it,
Is this like going to preschool?
yeah. And now we come into the spiritual realm. Can you see this very well, Barb?
Yeah, I blow it up when you're finished and then back off a little bit after they've had a chance to see what you're talking about.
Whatever, yeah.
That helps.
Okay. Okay. So now we need to come into the spiritual realm. The way the ego can come into the spiritual realm is what it has to do is it has to split in two. I have to create them up here. Move them up here so I can show. So here's our little ego guy, or girl, or thing, or whatever it is. Potentiality. Okay, the ego has to split itself into positive and negative. And that creates it to come into the spiritual realm. This word should be down here. That's why I like a dry erase board. Spiritual. We're still in the spiritual realm. Okay. So we got positive and negative. This is the soul. Soul 1A, soul 1B. And Zane talks about it as being like a monad, as opposed to the soul, which seems a lot more complex when we get to the physical, which it is. But it is the birth of the souls. It comes from the ego. So this isn't a negative. Not that it's bad. It's just like male and female. Males have positive energy and females have negative energy. Not that we're evil and they're good, although some people think that, but it's not the case. We just are what we are. We're male and female. We're different. Positive and negative. It's the easiest way to explain that. So,
Well, it's like electrical charges of energy are
Right.
positive.
it's just different. It's just, it is what it is. Okay, now also in the spiritual realm, this becomes denser. This is the lightest, airiest, closest probably to God. And it is also, so as it comes down, there's more density here in the spiritual. And it becomes souls, monads. Okay, now in the spiritual realm, there's also levels. Like think of like levels all within the spiritual realm. The highest level, and you can move down through the levels, and the lowest level, but you're still in the spiritual realm. So there's levels in here. So when this differentiation of each soul happens, it's in the highest level of the spiritual realm. And then so then these souls start having experiences, gaining spiritual substance around them, their monad. They're trying to get more love and wisdom experiences. And then they need to move down to the next realm. And moving down into the next realm, they become more complex. And just think this is still in the spiritual realm, so in the spiritual realm. It's all spiritual.
Is this kind of like the story of Adam and Eve?
Yeah. And then it becomes more and more complex. And it moves down into denser parts of the spiritual realm. But the energy is still from the one ego. This energy moves down with them. And it is the same energy, but because these are having different experiences and interacting with different things, they are different, but they're coming from the same energy of one ego. The two souls are impelled forward in their evolutionary journey by the same spirit ego. The ego at all times furnishes the divine driving power that urges the development of both souls and gives them the longing for significance, which becomes the will to live. So I think that's in your handouts about the ego furnishes the divine driving power, the will to live. The souls then attract about themselves a form of spiritual substance. We've already gone through that. The soul's experiences in this first form give it initial consciousness and abilities. And we just talked about that. So it goes through down until it gets to the soul finally gains the power to draw about itself in astral form and move into the astral realm. So now we have to move into the astral realm. And the astral to me, for some reason, is red. So, and that's more inner. And here's the astral realm. So now these two souls have to get an astral body about themselves. And they become more and more complex. but they are still from the same ego. This energy is still driving them forward. All they're doing is gaining more and more experiences, more love and feelings and intelligence. Until finally, the soul then has enough energy to attract about itself a physical form in the physical world. We knew that was coming, right? And this will be the physical world, even though like so small. But I'll make it bigger. But you guys getting the idea?
Right.
Okay, I'm going to erase some of this so I can write more.
So is the idea though that you're becoming more and more
Denser.
self-aware?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, it is.
Well, and in doing that, do you suppose, and this is what I've often wondered, you're kind of losing the idea, well, you're losing, you have this awareness that there's something bigger out there,
Right.
something that you're connected to that's...
Yeah, because you're coming into lower densities.
Right, and so it's
It's
harder to
more and more
remember
dense.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
as you go down. And of course, this is the most densest that we know of, the densest realm that we know of,
Yeah.
physicality. So these egos come down, and they're trying, I think initially all these things they're doing is just trying to have an experience and learning, like a baby. What does it know?
Well, yeah.
But it's having experiences, having hot, cold, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. It's developing and it's growing with
Right.
more and more physical substances added to it from the physical world.
Right.
It's developing, and that's what this monad is doing.
Right. It's curious. It wants to go
Yes.
out and experience whatever there is out there.
Exactly. So we'll make our spiritual world a little bit thinner. And I really want to talk about the astral and the physical. Oh, sorry. Oh, we're
You
almost
need
an
some
hour.
more?
Okay. So, so our little monad, or soul, it is called the soul. Zane does refer to it as the soul. He's more and more complex. He's had more experiences. He's now moved into the astral. And he has all the astral experiences he can have until he decides he wants to go further and move into the next lower, denser, but more complex realm, the physical. So
It's
you
like
wanna
a
go-
graduation to be in the physical realm.
Right. And the first thing you become, according to Zane, is a mineral, a crystal of mineral, a rock, so to speak, but a crystal nonetheless. Where's my mineral? And the mineral life, and I'm not going to read all this because I have a lot of stuff reading. Basically, what I wanted to say is the mineral life is the lowest on the bottom rung. This soul's monad's journey, going through the different various things, with the ego's energy pulsating through, all the way down. This is the lowest rung. And then it'll start its journey upward and back. But I'm not going to go through all that. I'm basically going to talk about the cycle of necessity. So Zane talks about that you go through various lifetimes as a mineral, a rock, different type of rock, until you get to a gem. You're always moving up higher. And then through each lifetime, you go back into the astral. And you assimilate your experiences. And we will find out why. But each lifetime you go back and forth physical, astral, until you, mineral life. The main thing you learn in your mineral life is chemical selectivity. From its experiences, the soul develops the ability to handle chemicals, chemical selectivity. I think that's in your handout.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. Phil Kalamazoo says, so we are all one.
We are.
Is the creator the connection between us? And is that where he, she can be found, here and now, amongst us?
Well, I would say yes, Phil, because this vibration of deity penetrates throughout all of it. And it's forever expanding and creating. But I would say yes, even into this very instance. Our individuality comes from the one ego, though, which the ego comes from God, which is from the angels, from God. So yes, I would say we are all one. We are all part of it. These are vibrations, and these are different dimensions. Ah, I messed my picture up. Oh. So yeah, I would say we are all one. We are all from God. And I'm sorry I'm getting so heavy on this, but I love talking about this stuff, so bear with me. Okay, back to the cycle of necessity. So we became mineral, and this is what we're learning, chemical selectivity in the mineral life. And each time we go back into the astral.
Well, and that's necessary in order to create, to
Exactly.
attract more complex interactions of form, right?
Complexity, exactly.
All right.
And then the mineral becomes a vegetable, plant life, and then dies and goes into the astral, the soul. And we're talking about the soul, remember that. We're talking about the soul. This is where our thoughts, our subconscious is. It's learning these various things, but to come into the physical, you have to have a physical form, a physical substance to learn this. And so then it becomes vegetable, and in the vegetable realm, what you are learning is the soul assimilates these experiences to develop its power of sensitiveness. So in the vegetable, we have sensitiveness is what it's learning. It's experiencing in the vegetable realm, according to Zane. And then it assimilates in the astral. And then, of course, it goes into the animal kingdom after it's gaining more and more complexity. It's learning these different various things, and it's becoming more and more complex until it becomes an animal life. And animal life, what it's learning is simple consciousness. I can't draw an animal, so
Let's get figure
four-legged
work.
with a tail. It's an animal, and in the animal realm, we are learning simple consciousness until the point of dun, 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 human being. And in the human being, in human life, and you start out as a lower animal form and work your way up, although I don't know how it rates, but anyway, until you now can have enough experiences, enough of different things that you need to learn that you become a human being. With the same soul, the same monad, the same one from the ego. It's gone through all the different realms, and the other soul over here. It's gone through the different realms. until now you become a person. And Zane says we have one human life. That's Zane. So what we are learning as a human, we are learning self-consciousness. So that was your question. We're learning self-consciousness. The animal was simple consciousness. The human, self-consciousness. That's what we're learning.
What I've always found interesting is that you can't have self-consciousness without the material world, which I always thought was very interesting.
Right.
Is that because it's a realm of friction and
Yeah, I'll talk about that too. Yeah. It's because it's the most densest, and it takes us a lot of learning, because we're dense.
to work our way through it?
So we have to learn these things before we can learn self-consciousness. But all the while we're becoming more and more complex and more dense. And then after the human life, we die and remember, it's our soul, our mind, unconscious, or that monad. So that monad is in here within our brain. And then that has to go back into the astral and assimilate those experiences. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that is-
So, and it's still from that one ego. And of course, we have our other soul guy, soulmate maybe?
yeah.
Our soulmate, that's when it first, he's having lots of other experiences and differences, but because we were from the same ego, that's where the idea of soulmates come from, right? So this is really what I wanted to do to get out of the cycle of necessity, what we're gaining with each developing thing. Okay, so in a single life, all the various states through which the soul has passed attracts itself to the perfect form, which has an exact correspondence to every plane, state, and center of life of the universe. Meaning that soul monad has come through each plane, down and down and down and down and down, until, and then mineral, vegetable, animal, and then human. That's what he's talking about. In this single life for the first time, and as a result of accumulated interpersonal wisdom gathered through the power of love or attraction, the soul becomes self-conscious. And it no longer is an impersonal being impelled forward by inner and unaccountable yearnings. The soul is now a self-conscious entity endowed with all the responsibility of a morally free agent according to its ability and opportunity. So now that we're self-conscious, then the process starts back the other way, going back towards God. And that's the hard part. The rest of it was just kind of, it just is happening. We're just going along for the ride. Learning what we can. All right. So we got all this. All right. Therefore, it should be recognized that all traits and characteristics of the unconscious mind are derived from previous experiences. That's how we get there. With chemical selectivity, mineral, vegetable sensitiveness, previous experiences, and are stored in the more complex organizations of the astral body. All feeling and knowledge is based upon perceptions of relations. Awareness can only be developed through repeated contacts with a changing environment. So that changing environment, that's why the monad progressed through each realm and got more complex. It needed a changing environment to get more and more awareness until we have self-consciousness in the thing. So again, I just want to reiterate, the mind equals the soul, which equals the unconscious mind, which equals the character. All connects up to the consciousness.
So then, when we're born, we have these through these processes of assimilation, we have these impressions that we bring with us, feelings that we bring with us,
Right.
as a result, but we don't really know what they are.
Right.
We can't
It's
really-
unconscious.
Yeah.
But it is how it's made who we are, and all that relates.
And the birth chart would be an
I'm going to tie that in.
Oh. Okay, I'm
if we can
sorry.
get to it.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm going to tie this into astrology. Okay, and in chapter 1 in the book, we're actually only on page 9. And the subtitle is, Every Soul is Called into Existence to Fulfill a Definite Cosmic Need. So,
That's cool.
yeah. Okay, so we kind of already touched upon that a little bit, but let's just briefly reiterate what's in the book. Souls are not brought into existence randomly, but are brought into according to developing cosmic need. The ego furnishes the energy to cause the soul or mind to struggle forward to accomplish its destiny. The ego then equals individuality. We already discussed all that. Okay, we're starting to tie in to the astrology. Needs and trends of the mental and physical worlds are mirrored by the positions of the planets and signs. These create tensions and set up pressures in the astral substance which have an influence upon life. Thus can activities on Earth be foretold by charting the heavens. Now we're going to kind of explain that a little bit better. There's a thing called the law of correspondences, which is Hermetic axiom, as above, so below. Above, so below. Actually, the actual law of correspondences is the relation between entities or movements and stellar positions. That's the actual definition. The relation between entities or movements and stellar positions. Like, as above, so below, the macrocosm is like the microcosm. And if you think about it, it's like the movement of an atom. Atom has a nucleus, and then little electrons moving around it. The sun, the solar system, has all these planets, and they're all moving around in a different direction, cycling. Very similar. Microcosms and microcosm. Okay, therefore, if we can map the birth chart of a physical body when it is born, we could map the birth chart of the celestial body when it is born. Or rather, when the ego is first differentiated, if we were in the celestial realm, this would be the ego's birth chart. Okay, so basically Zane is just talking about, I didn't quite understand this part. Maybe Vicki can enlighten us a little bit. But
Probably not.
When the ego is first differentiated and born, Zane is basically saying if we were in the celestial realm, we could do a birth chart for when that ego was born of angelic parents. Oops. And that birth chart, although I don't know, the planets, I don't know, it doesn't matter, it's not important. Never mind. So if we could do a birth chart of our physical body when it's born, Zane says that you could do a birth chart of the ego in the celestial realm when it's born, and basically you can understand what the cosmic need is at that time based on the birth chart of the ego if you were in the celestial realm. And because the ego has come down through all those different realms to the physical, it's our mind, that when we do our human birth chart when we're born, it's going to have a general idea of the trend of the cosmic need at that time.
By the law of correspondence.
By the law of correspondences. So basically it's talking about that. The ego's birth chart would mirror the cosmic needs of the whole cosmic plan.
Is he talking figuratively that we can do this birth chart, or is he talking about, like, in actuality, by
No.
knowing our own instincts, we should be able to figure out this chart?
No, by our birth chart alone, we could figure out the general trend of our ego.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah, the general cosmic need at the time, because we have abilities. We have our abilities, and it's shown. Sun and Leo
Through
or
different
something.
signs. Mm-hmm.
That person with that birth chart has the potentiality. That's what the cosmic need is at that time when you're born, the general trend of it, and your abilities and lack of things. But you're learning how to work with that and develop it and become more higher consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So you learn from that. But when you're born, it's showing the general trend of what the cosmos needs at that time. And also about your previous experiences that you've gone through, right?
I think what he's trying to do is tie it all together so that it's not, because what is observed in nature, I think, is that everything seems to fit together,
Yes.
and so it must be the same,
Right.
in this larger sense. We can't really know it, but
Right.
we can, through as above, so below, or by correspondence, can get a sense of the direction we're moving in.
Right.
I think is what he's saying.
Right, exactly. The soul at every stage of its journey is striving toward the realization of the blueprint of its own spiritual ego. Its own spiritual ego. Those realizations are only possible through acquiring both the experience and the power to be able to handle the abilities that are needed for the cosmic work. So that's what we have abilities for that develop cosmic work. Okay, so the birth chart is a map of all experiences a soul has had up to the time of the birth. Does that make sense? Yep. So all those experiences that the monad, the soul, has gone through, the birth chart
It's the sum total.
is the map
Yeah.
of the experiences a soul has had up to the time of birth. The sum total of the organization in the finer forms derived from the experiences constitute the soul, which equals the mind, which equals the character, which equals the unconscious mind. So back to that again. I love that. Soul equals the mind, which equals the unconscious, which equals the character. So now we're starting to understand where that character comes from. Well, I am anyway. About the astrology and the character. These are all the same. It's coming from all those previous experiences. Okay, now back to the book. We're on page 12. The subtitle is All Feeling and Intelligence Are Due to Experience. All Feeling and Intelligence, which was love and wisdom, feeling and intelligence. Where did I get that? Yeah. Exists. Wait. Are due to experience. Right. Okay, moving along. It's warm in here, isn't it? It's kind of warm. That fancy. I thought I turned the air conditioner down to like 74, but I'm not feeling it. Let's see. Something like that? It's raining. Experiences are the basis of feeling and intelligence, which is love and wisdom. The form becomes organized in a particular way through its contacts with the environment. The form's experiences from the contact with the environment register as feeling and intelligence, except for the physical realm. Does that make sense to everybody? We're actually going to explain that a little bit more. But that, what?
I'll say go for it.
Okay. In the physical realm, existence means one experiences contacts with a wide diversity, but itself is too coarse to retain such impressions of feeling and intelligence. So here's our physical body, and we're going to explain why this is so. But first, this didn't make sense to me. Associated with all physical substance is two other substances. A transition substance called the ether, and the astral substance. Okay, and this is where I want to pick up.
So transition substance is called ether.
Ether.
You may want to hold this up for the people that may
Oh.
not have that.
Do you have a color one?
Yeah.
It shows up. I left some tape.
Yeah, thanks, Barb. This little guy over here. They're both the same, I just colored them differently. Can you see that, Barb? Either one of them? They're both the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Astral substance. Okay, now back in the book, when he talks about astral substance, and he also says stellar substance, and he also says four-dimensional substance, and also he talks about finer substance. All of this is the same thing to help you when you're reading the book. The astral body is the finer body. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the etheric body and the astral body. So, you got that?
Yeah.
Astral, stellar. Okay, the definition for ether, I looked it up, and it's the upper regions of space, the clear sky, the heavens. The ancients called the ether what was the upper regions of space. In physics, it used to be a hypothetical substance once supposed to occupy all space. They no longer call it the ether in physics anymore. Actually, I think they call it electromagnetic energy. There's still some debate on that, but they got rid of the ether and now they talk about electromagnetic energy, and some people think it's the same thing. So, ethereal just means light or airy, extremely delicate or refined, heavenly or celestial. Okay, the etheric body is an energy transfer body. So you have your regular body here. Let's try better. You have your regular body, and then you have your etheric body, which is the closest to, which is in this picture. Etheric body is yellow here and golden here. It's like your energy transfer body. It is made of electromagnetic boundary line energy and lives on the boundary line of electromagnetism, where energies approach the speed of light. It is the body closest to the physical body and interpenetrates the physical body and the astral body, but only interpenetrates the astral body for a short time, only for energy transfer. So now we have your astral body around this. So this interpenetrates both the physical and the astral bodies. And it's to transfer energies between the two.
You need to speak up a little bit here.
Okay. It's energy transfer. It just interpenetrates the physical. It's so that energy can go into the astral, into the physical. The etheric body does not have consciousness of its own, only what comes from the mind of our physical bodies. So there's the energy. That's the energy transfer, is our thoughts. Our thoughts do not stay on our physical body. Our thoughts have to go somewhere. It's energy. Thoughts are energy, and it transfers from the etheric, through the etheric, to get into the astral. That's the energy transfer. And that's where our thoughts go, to the astral plane, right? That's the mental plane, that's the thought plane. Okay, astral simply means star. So we all know that, right? Astral, stellar means star. And we will get to the reason why. The astral body is the body on the other side of the electromagnetism, past the speed of light. It is made up of both thoughts and feelings. So Christopher used to have this diagram where when things start approaching the speed of light, they're coming to this boundary line energy, etheric. And then this is past the speed of light. And it becomes astral. It goes into the astral realm once objects go faster than the speed of light.
They disappear to us.
They disappear to us, but that's where our thoughts go.
Right.
Thoughts are faster than the speed of light. They go into the astral through the energy transfer body, the etheric, which is electromagnetism. Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The astral body is the body next to the etheric body and interpenetrates both the etheric and the physical bodies, but lives in the astral realm only. That's the astral body. Like our own physical body, which we can think and feel at the same time, we can also think without feeling and feel without thinking. Thinking and feeling are both energies contained in our mind, which is contained in the soul, which operates through the astral body. That's where all our thoughts go.
Is it the etheric energy that connects the two for us?
Yes, the etheric energy is what connects the two.
Like
It's
on
the
the-
energy transfer body.
Like on those days when you're feeling kind of dull and not very alive, probably
Right.
you've got a bad connection going on, maybe.
You got unplugged.
Okay, now we're on page 16 in the book, and the subtitle is The Energy of All Experiences is Retained. It is in the astral substance that all physical and astral experiences are recorded. Remember how we said the physical body was too coarse to retain thoughts and feelings? It's recorded in the astral.
Is that air
Sorry.
too much?
No, it's in the throat. All right. Because the astral substance is frictionless, the energy from experience is permanently retained in the astral substance of the astral body. Frictionless meaning when we send out a wave of energy, say on a pond, the energy starts dissipating over time. Well, if there was no friction, and you had energy moving, it would just keep going, right? That is why in the astral there's no friction. Experiences are retained in the astral body of your own soul. Etheric energies have the power to impress the cells of the physical brain. Almost done. Cool. Good timing. Yeah. Okay, every experience is registered and retained by the unconscious mind, even the slightest or most inconsequential experience. The awareness of any experience by the unconscious mind adds energy to the unconscious mind's organization. Now we're on page 23 in the book. The astral body is a thought-built body. We have to talk about a little bit about biology a little bit. Vega knows this stuff. Alright, get some markers up. Okay, in our body, we are made up of cells, right? Well, atoms, elements, and then we eventually form a cell. And the cell has a nucleus, and has a membrane, and it has all kinds of things inside. Mitochondrial DNA, right? And different things. Okay, and so some of these things, and they're all called protoplasm. And I looked up the dictionary definition of protoplasm, and it said, the organized colloidal complex of organic and inorganic substances, such as proteins and water, that constitutes the living nucleus, the cytoplasms, the plastids, and the mitochondria of the cell. So the protoplasm is kind of like just a lot of the stuff in there. That's the protoplasm. In the physical world, chemical elements combine to form protoplasm, which is a substance of physical organic life. So remember back when we had a mineral lifetime, we were trying to get chemical consciousness? Because in our cells, chemical consciousness combines and forms our life. All our cells are made of it. However, in the astral world, now just think of the speed of light. That's the speed of light. This will be our boundary line. And this will be our astral world. Here's an astral cell, the nucleus. In the astral world, thought elements, which are experiences, combine to form psychoplasm. Remember psycho, meaning psyche, soul, mind. Mm-hmm. These are thought-built cells in the astral. This is the physical world.
I mean, that's a term that Zane made up, right?
Right. A psychoplasm, yeah. Is
for a
I
correspondence.
believe, yeah, because I didn't find it in the dictionary. So.
Right.
So I couldn't look it up. I had to go with Zane, and Zane just wrote, psychoplasm is defined as the chief substance of astral organic life made from thought elements, which come from experiences. Psychoplasm. So experiences are thought elements. So we have experiences here, they go into our brain, our conscious, our mind, and they go into the astral world as thought elements, which creates psychoplasm. Psychoplasm creates thought cells. Zane talks a lot about thought cells, for almost every book, I think. In the physical body, protoplasm exists in the form of cells, and the astral body, psychoplasm, exists also in the form of cells, but cells that are made up of experiences, or thoughts, or thought cells. So thought cells equals stellar cells. Stellar cells. Astral and stellar both refer to stars. Okay? So protoplasm on the 3D plane, this is the 3D physical plane, this is in your handout, is equal to psychoplasm on the 4D plane. This is our 4D astral plane. These are equal. Chemical elements that make up the physical body on the 3D plane are equal to the thought elements that make up the astral bodies on the 4D plane. In the physical body, physical cells that are alike organize and combine to form structures, like skin, pancreas, liver, right? You get a bunch of these cells together, and then you got the liver, which I don't know what it looks like. But so millions, billions, whatever cells are all in the liver. And they're all cells. And then you got your skin. You get your skin cells, which are cells, just like cells in the liver, but they have a different function, right? And getting a lot of these together, we form structures, like your skin, your liver, pancreas, whatever. So, back into the astral realm, similar things going on. Cells coming together, lots of cells coming together of the same variety, organization. They'll make a thought structure. And let me get to that. In the astral realm, thought cells organize and combine to form thought structures. They are called thought structures because they are formed from thoughts. The elements which make up thought cells are experiences, which combine according to the circumstances present at the time they were built. When an experience happens and forms consciousness, thought cells are created in the astral realm. So, the conditions present during an experience and the thought processes that go on during the experience are organized into a definite pattern, which create thought cells, which in turn create thought structures, which go into making the astral body. So, you got this? Okay. I'm going to erase this. We're still on the astral side. We kind of have an idea of how thought structures are being built. So all your energy of a thought can go into creating a structure. Like say this is your astral body that you're building with your thoughts, right? So you start forming structures by all these thoughts going here, or all the thoughts going here. Now if you have negative thoughts, and you keep having negative thoughts, you form like a cancerous thing, right? All those thoughts. You keep putting energy in, energy. All this energy, because you keep thinking about it. And it becomes hard and structure-like. And I think this is just, it seems like it'd be right. This is tied into your physical body, right?
By the law of correspondence.
By the law of correspondence. So that thought keeps going, perhaps after so much thought and energy of a negative variety that goes against your harmonious nature of your body, that could probably create disease, right? Mm-hmm. Through thoughts. And what comes out is a physical response to this constant inharmonious thoughts with your body that wants to live and just be and do what it needs to do. But inharmony starts being created, and so that's what I think disease can come from. A lot of your negative thoughts, right? Okay. The conditions present during the experience and the thought processes that go on during the experience are organized into a definite pattern, which create thought cells. I already read that one, sorry. In the astral body, there are stellar structures which have been built up by active stellar cells. And then they're organized into definite forms which have a type of energy and perform a particular function. So if they're just natural thoughts, then they go into creating the function of the astral body. And the most energetic and powerful of these thought structures formed in the astral world are called dynamic stellar structures. I think that's the last thing I'm going to hand out there. They're the most powerful and energetic of the thought structures formed in the astral world. These thought cells and thought-built structures and the thought-organized dynamic stellar structures have been acquired not only from human experience, human physical experiences, but also from the experiences in the astral world. All life forms are constantly adding energies derived from their various experiences to the cells and organizations of their astral body. All states of awareness can be classified as thoughts. All experiences that the unconscious and conscious mind is aware of can be classified into different kinds of thoughts. And most of the energies of the soul reside in the astral plane, because remember what the soul is the mind, is the character, is the unconscious, which is in the astral realm. Thought plane equals stellar plane. Okay. On it. You got all that? Yeah. Okay, the conscious mind does not know all the many processes that take place in the human body, right? Our consciousness doesn't know of all the processes going on. And if it did know them, it probably wouldn't understand them. Therefore, the unconscious mind directs such things going on in the physical bodies, glandular secretion, assimilation of food, all those other processes. Innumerable thought cells fill the 12 distinct compartments of the astral body. So we're building our astral body with our thoughts. And, oops. Let me do this. What does this look like?
It's a chart.
Right? Well, Zane says, all experiences that the unconscious and conscious mind can be aware of thought cells can fill the 12 distinct compartments of the astral body. So 12 distinct compartments. Our thoughts go into one of these thoughts, into these compartments. Thoughts about ourselves and our body come here, form a thought structure. Thoughts about our partners and marriage go here. Thought about our career, start adding up here. So, depending on where your thoughts are, you start adding energy to your astrology chart, right? On the astral plane is also where the astrological energies exert their power. The birth chart indicates an accurate map of the most important arrangements of thought cells within the unconscious mind, their composition, their energy, their particular type, and activity of the most active groups of thought cells in dynamic stellar structures. The birth chart is a map of the soul, which is the mind, the character, and its organization at the time of birth, but it also points out the abilities and tendencies of a human. Those abilities and tendencies are mapped by a cross-section of the soul's progress through time called progressions. Right? We're almost out of here. Yay! Alright, now this I'm going to summarize. I thought this was amazing though. So we start off when we're born and we have a birth chart, right? And all the experiences of the past that our soul has gone through gives us what this birth chart is, right? Our sun, say, is here and has a lot of power and it's strong. Career is going to be the most important thing in our life, or so to speak, or so we think. But that person, that human that was born, has all this abilities and blocks in their life, and it's showed by the chart. But then our thoughts come into play and give us energies that create other areas. Maybe, we're not going to be, maybe we have a lot of energy in here to start with, but all our thoughts are in the home. So we can change our chart, obviously, by where our thoughts go. Now that's just our tendency when we're born to where our thoughts are going to go. But our thoughts create the change in the astrology chart,
Right.
in the astral body as well, right? Now let's get to the point of what astral realm. We kind of know what it is, but why is it associated with stars, right?
Question.
So we've kind of talked about it. Well, this is what we kind of came up with, kind of going through this, is, so the law of correspondences is as above, so below, microcosm, macrocosm. So we think of a human being in our physical world, and we think of planet Earth. We can kind of equate them to be the same, right? We're made up of physical substance. Now we have an etheric body, an energy transfer body, right? Planet Earth has an energy transfer body. And we know that, I think, because it has an electromagnetic body, right? Our Earth has electromagnetic, and we have one. Therefore, the Earth, I would think, has an astral body, an astral. All the consciousnesses of the Earth go into the astral body. And then we have all our planets sitting around, doing their thing, rotating around. Now, wouldn't they also have an etheric body and an astral body around them that we can't see and we can't detect with, it seems like it would be so. This is where I came from, is that, so these planets in the astral world are sending not only vibrations, but the way they are set up. Say you're born right here, this little guy is born here, on planet Earth at a certain time, this planet's down here, sending energies to you. This sending direct energies to you. It's probably Mars.
That arrow, I think so.
But it's sending energies not specifically to you in the physical, but in the astral. It's affecting your body, your astral body. And that's why it's unconscious in the physical until we make it conscious, right?
Makes sense.
But that's why a lot of people, I know my mother had a lot of problems with astrology because she says, physicists have not discovered any specific rays coming from the planet Saturn and hitting us when we're born, so I don't get it, I don't understand. So maybe the realization that it's hitting our astral body, and it's affecting our unconscious. And astral is star, so does that make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that made sense to me. That's why we're not seeing some physical invisible rays coming towards us. It's happening on the unconscious level, and it's coming from the astral realm, hitting our thought processes, and that's why I think we're called astral body.
Right.
Star body.
Well, there's probably some sort of physical thing happening with the planets.
Right.
And they are emitting energies,
Right.
but we can't say that you can't measure those energies and say, well, that's a square or that's a Mars or that. But the thoughts that those energies impinge upon through your astral,
Unconscious. And our astral. That is our astral, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Unconscious. So that's why we have a tendency for our birth chart when we're born. Say the sun is in the first house, we have all this energy and potential to be probably something great hitting our unconscious, but our own environment, our own thoughts, and our own interactions with everybody can affect that. And even though our birth chart shows that, and the progressions show kind of, to me, progressions are like tracer energy. Has anybody seen like tracers? You ever seen like the idea of, well, you understand the idea of tracers. We saw a lot this weekend, didn't we? I'd love to be able to show that. But to me, progressions are like tracer energy. I know it's more complicated, and I don't really want to go into it, but that's how I think of it. As the energy that could be left over consciously, and it moves. But then we have our own thoughts, and we put our own thoughts into our astrology chart. And that's why I think some astrology charts look different than what our abilities seem to be.
Question?
Okay?
Bill missed a little bit of what you said, and I'm wondering what the missing word was, but
Okay,
I'm
well,
not sure how you could find it. He just said, what did you say was the most energetic? You got interrupted. You
Yeah.
didn't know what that.
the most energetic and powerful of the thought structures formed in the astral world are called dynamic stellar structures. That's,
And Phil says, so do you think over your discords or just enhance the harmonies? And then he went on, so you can rise above the inharmonies in the natal chart by power thought.
power thoughts. I would think so, right? Powerful thoughts, lots of powerful thoughts going into another house, a compartment of life. I would think,
Well, I think that's what affirmations are, and all those things that we do to
Right.
try and direct our thinking.
Right.
We make a decision about where we want the energy to be, and so we focus on that.
see, Saturn
With
goes
feeling,
over-
but and
Right.
that's the thing that's important, is to connect your thoughts with feeling, because they won't impress your unconscious mind.
Right.
Which is the love and the wisdom.
And I think I had that. Emotion is the moving of thought. And I think you told me that, that's why I wrote it down. Like,
It's the medium
Emotion.
to which you move thought.
right. So a thought can have a lot of energy, but the emotion behind it, because it's thoughts and emotions in the astral world.
Right. Well, see, it's when you feel strongly about something that you get up off your stuff and do something. You know,
Right.
you don't do anything until you really feel it.
Right, because you can think over and over and over and over, I'm going to get up at 7:30
Yeah,
every
right.
morning,
Right.
but the thoughts are just there. But if you create an emotion behind the thought,
Right.
I want to get up at 7:30 because, I want to do this. I
Right.
have to catch a plane. That emotion gives it movement, gives it energy. So maybe we're just, with our thoughts, we can create a big, huge structure, but we have to energize it with emotion. Hence why negative energy with a lot of bad emotions creates huge, nasty structure.
Yeah, it is, but it's energy.
It is
real
energy.
and you're lucky to have those energy compounds.
Right. But you can create your emotion and your thoughts to be positive and constructive.
Yeah.
And then you're going to create another structure. So you're going to kind of leave the structure alone because it's been built by your thoughts. And you're going to build another, thought pattern over here and develop it with energy. So that thought structure that you created over here in your heart center that's negative, you leave it alone, it starts dying off. The cells start dying. When you stop
Or you
giving
can
energy
convert
to
it to-
cells, yeah,
You can convert to.
and you can convert too. And there's all kinds of alchemy, everything that Zane talks about as we go along.
But it's interesting, when you talk about the emotion and the thoughts. That's the love and the wisdom
The
that
love
we
and the
start at.
wisdom.
That's really where it all boils down to.
Right, love and wisdom, feelings and intelligence, thoughts and emotions. Well, it's 10 till, I wasn't even sure I was going to get through everything. Actually, I didn't even get through the whole chapter because there was a lot here to go through. And so there was I think 2 more other subtitles. But I think I'm good. You think you guys are good?
Well, I thought you did a really good job of creating an image
Connection?
for all of us, right? To get a picture of what's actually going on and what he talked about. And I
Right.
thought that was very good.
Oh, okay.
You know, Yvette, this class and the other class that you had, both classes, you've given me an ability to see it rather than
Cool.
just have it in my own mind. You
Right.
know? And it's really makes it much more concrete.
Really
And I really
does.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that's cool. Well, that's good. That's what I wanted to do. That was my intention for this class. Because I have to see it too. And actually, this stuff has come up. I went through this with Barb a couple of times, and of course I got stuck. And then it would come as I'm going through it. I was like, oh yeah. So it helps me to, talk to others and communicate. And I'm getting it as I'm going as well. So, yeah. So the other two parts of the chapter, I'll just give you the subtitles, was the justice of each soul's experiences, and that was on page 22. And I have my own notes that I wrote about it a little bit. And then the 3 psychological levels on page 25. Actually, I did go through that. That was the chemical sensitivity, the vegetable kingdom and sensitiveness, simple consciousness in animals, and self-consciousness in the human. That was actually, I already intertwined that. And it talks a little more about it. And then one of their subtitle was, the objective mind was developed to take care of new situations. And that's actually a little interesting that I might go through next week if I have time. So next week is going to be chapter 2, maybe a little bit of this if we have time. And next week is Wednesday night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I'll try to get handouts on the web TV page.
They got put on.
They what?
They got put on.
They did get put
The
on.
handout, everybody that wanted that.
Oh, good. Okay. The handouts did get put on. I don't think this handout is, but I just handed this out, and you could have colored it if you wanted and write spiritual, astral, etheric. But, if you want that, I can try to scan it in or something.
You got a couple of questions too?
Okay.
Or comments, everything.
All right.
It's all pouring in now.
Oh, great.
It says this is the first time, this is Laura from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
This is the first time anybody has explained this concept of astral body. It makes sense. Yvette was keeping it simple and isn't losing over the weightiness ether. And another one says, Yvette, the current conservative model demands the separation between a person and his or her experience. And it seems to me that that the organism, the receiver, interpreter, transmitter of astral signals. So scientists with the conservative mindset automatically have a blind spot as to the astral and such.
Right.
And then he goes on, clarification. And Jill says, Yvette, nice job. Neil, great, Yvette. We welcome a new voice to the books. Laura says, thank you, Yvette. I'm looking forward to next week.
Cool. All right. Now, again, I read through this book once. I took my own set of notes, and I still didn't get it until I went through it 3 or 4 more times. So.
Thank you very much for processing that. That's helping us assimilate.
Yes, assimilate. Astral. All right, well, I think I'm done for today.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.